Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Life DraftKings Best Ball Stream. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It's a great day to be great. It's a great day to try to win 1.5 million freaking dollars. Yeah, let's try to do that. And by let's, I mean myself and hopefully not the guy joining me because we are competing in this. But you know what? I guess it'd be okay if you want to. Dwain McFarland. What's up, Dwain?
Yeah, I think we're the only show I know of where we actually draft against one another. I'm sure there are others out there, but we've become too accustomed to it, so I just don't know how to do it any other way. And yes, we do snipe each other pretty much every time.
Not this time.
At some point, we've talked so much we're gonna like a lot of the same players.
Seriously, not this time because you're picking out a 3-hole and I am all the way at 111. But yeah, we've had some funny drafts this year where again right next to each other and the snipes have been aplenty. So we are already rolling hot and heavy. And Dwain, you were about to be on the clock at 103.
Yeah, we'll see if they let CMC fall to me.
He's been, man. I love the DraftKings, the injury tags. He did not get them here, but still plenty of good guys.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I really hate to have to just take Tyreek Hill in a 3 wide receiver league that's full PPR. It's really tough to have to make that click. You know what I mean?
We've talked about really CD, CMC, Tyreek. After that, if you're in your home league, that's when we're a little more willing to get the Bijan, the Brees Halls of the world. I know some people have been really, I would say, overreacting to CMC injury news. I mean, based on everything we've heard, and by heard, I mean listening mostly to Dr. Evan Porras, who does fantastic fantasy work in the industry, I'm not expecting this to really linger into the season at all. It sounds like, Dwain, a 2-week injury. And guess what? A lot of times, 2-week injuries are 2-week injuries. It doesn't mean, Christian McCaffrey's calf has detached from his body. So anytime I can get, again, even a pick or two discount, I will happily scoop that up. And maybe what we could see out of guys like Puka Nacua in this draft as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's a different story. Like if we're really close to the season, and then you worry, either the player is going to miss time to begin the year, which isn't great, if you're drafting them in round 1. But even worse is what if they rush them back and they re-aggravate the injury? When it happens this early and we've still got a month to go before the season starts, depending obviously on the nature of the injury. But yeah, I do lean a lot into the goodness of our fantasy doctors community. And I've pretty much read the same things that you were talking about with McCaffrey. So just not much worry. I expect, the 49ers to just take it super easy. And if that means resting him the rest of the preseason and limiting, any kind of work he's going to do, as long as I have CMC out there healthy week 1, that's the main thing we want.
I went ahead and took Garrett Wilson here at the turn. Was hoping Jahmyr Gibbs might fall just 2 picks towards me, but he did not. Josh Allen off the board, first pick of round 2. Some might say that was a little early, but, do your thing, whoever the hell just made that pick. So I'm looking between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Drake London. Got Saquon, JT, and HN available. Not bad picks, but I think we're going to go ahead and double up at wide receiver here and make a strength a superpower. So Marvin Harrison Jr. and Garrett Wilson on the board. Haven't heard a ton out of Marv, honestly, out of camp, particularly, compared to Malik Neighbors. Certainly don't think it's a reason to panic. I mean, when you're sharing an offense with Greg Dortch joining, there's only one football to go around. So can't blame Marv for that. But again, end of the day, it's not only just Marv standing as a prospect, it's the reality that we're looking at him as the fairly undisputed number 1 option in this offense, with all due respect to Trey McBride. And then obviously Kyler Murray being someone who we've seen enable DeAndre Hopkins some big years and just generally be a really freaking good NFL quarterback. So more than happy to come away with those 2 guys at the top of the draft. But Dwain, looping back now to you in round 2, Saquon, JT off the board. Maybe, just maybe, a certain Miami running back if he makes it to you?
Maybe. I'm going to see what wide receivers are here first. I got 1 pick to me. Or I got 2 picks to me. Obviously, there's someone that I love at the very top of the queue. I don't expect to get them. So we'll see what happens. I have enjoyed, drafting down towards the end you're at.
Yeah.
Because, oh, wow, I just got Drake London.
There you go. After Evans.
Yeah, so love Drake London here. Like, I would take Drake London at the turn. The 1-2 turn. So getting him here, like
I almost did.
Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, he and Marvin Harrison Jr. are right there together.
Yeah.
So getting that, I love. So yeah, what I was going to say though, I like drafting now at the end where you are because a couple things are really occurring. Number one, everyone's assuming that the trade is still done for Brandon Ayuk. So like Deebo Samuel's been going right at the turn. And so yesterday I got Marvin Harrison, to fall back to me with AJ Brown. I mean, just things that don't normally happen because people are moving up Deebo. Puka sliding to the turn is making some people think about the different type of pairings they may want with Puka because there's already certain ones they've gotten whenever Puka was going at pick 10. So like just some of that stuff I feel like is really opening the door to building like some unique teams that you're not normally able to build. And I really do think that, wow, I got to pick here. I love two players here. Do I want to go with Jalen Waddle or
you can't take them both? I'm just saying, Dwayne.
I can't take them.
Can't do it. That'd be wild if you could. Might be a little bit of a different game.
I'm gonna take Neighbors just because, like, look, I love the Dolphins offense. But like both of them in the top 3 rounds at wide receiver, like I could just see cases where like it's really hard for them both to go off, like when I need the points the most. But it was a tough decision, honestly. I mean, Waddle was the better pick based on like ADP. You don't normally get him there. I'm assuming he's falling because he's got the questionable signal. People freaked the heck out over this injury stuff, like probably too much. But yeah, I love picking down where you are right now. And then I like picking in the middle of the draft too, because if people do let Deebo slide and they're out on and they think that Deebo's not gonna be without Brandon Ayuk, then that's fine. That's where I'll take him. But I see a lot of people reaching for Kittle and reaching for Deebo right now, which I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But like my thought is like, well, people are already taking like where he's probably gonna go if the trade happens, which makes it kind of tough to want to do it all the time.
No, I'm with you. And again, Deebo, I don't think he's wrong with where he's going. Bumping Cooper Kupp all the way up there when nothing has really changed, I think, in our, projections, I think it's a bit extreme. But yeah, man, I mean, I think Brandon Ayuk, honestly, if he does go to Pittsburgh, all of a sudden does kind of get into play around this area of the draft. So Kittle, Deebo, certainly warranted bumps, but, haven't exactly
What's the most
seen
likely
the
outcome now? I think the most likely outcome is Brandon Ayuk is a 49er.
I know.
Like he doesn't. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Like he doesn't have leverage anymore. Like he didn't want to go to the 2 teams that had the packages the 49ers were willing to take. Like, and now the team that he is willing to go to, they probably can't get the draft capital worked out. Like Brandon Ayuk right now is a steal going in round 4. That's insanity. Like, I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Went ahead and took Isaiah Pacheco, 3 down running back for the Chiefs. Gotta love that. And then DJ Moore with my round 3, round 4 picks. So Javi Ramirez, by the way, is in the chat. Appreciate you, Javi. Home league draft tomorrow, Dwayne. Home league, all the marbles. Nice. 3 wide receivers got to start. He has pick 104, leaning Jamar Chase, Breece Hall, or Bijan Robinson. I will say in my ranks, I do have Bijan as the 4th player off the board after CMC, CD, and Tyreek, which I'm guessing is his assumed top 3. So who would you take out of that group, Dwayne?
Man, so I know people just want an answer, but what I love about picking down there is you're getting 3 elite players with your first 3 picks. Just the way drafts are working this year, you're getting 3 players that we love that are all in their prime. So whether you're taking Chase, whether you're taking Bijan, whether you're taking Breece, with your next 2 picks, regardless of what you do, if you go running back, you're going to have a shot to come back and get Achane. I mean, if you go wide receiver, if you go running back, you're going to have a shot to come back and get really good wide receivers. So hang on, I got to make my pick here.
No, but Dwayne's spot, I mean, even look, redraft's going to be different, but in the earlier parts of drafts, we do see the similar players taken. No one's taken 2 QBs inside the first 4 rounds. And I mean, look how this board's going. Again, if you do go ahead and take Chase, you can see guys like Achane, like Kyron Williams, maybe a sliding JT or Barkley actually falling to you in round 2. And then, I mean, Dwayne's, a couple choice here is Malik Neighbors, but guys like Jalen Waddle and, DK Metcalf, Ayuk, DJ Moore still there in round 3. So it is a good spot to be in, Dwayne.
Yeah. So, I mean, you really can work it. Like, so when people ask me that question, I do ask them, like, how does your home league typically draft? Yeah. Like, are they adapting the way they should to 3 starting wide receivers and a half or a full PPR and they go off the board earlier? If they are, then I'm going to go ahead and take the receiver and know that I'm going to get value at running back. But a lot of typical home leagues, man, are still running backs early. Yeah. And if that's the case, then I think you're good to go with Bijan or Breece, like your pick between those guys.
So Also got a couple people asking if we are going to be doing some redraft streams. And yeah, Dwayne and I were talking about that recently. We are going to be in those FFPC streets. We're going to try to do it recorded this year because one, we don't like people sniping us when we're trying to do a live stream. It's, a little bit tilting. And two, again, when we're not doing it live, it's just a lot easier to talk through strategy. So we'll, talk a little more off the, stream, Dwayne. But I think, early mid next week could certainly be feasible for us to get one of those up because we got, Dwayne and I usually join about 7 or 8 leagues together. So need to start ramping those up for sure. So can't do those this weekend. I'm going to be, drinking a few Kona big waves with my friend Chris Allen and a bunch of other fantasy nerds up in Canton, Ohio. So looking forward to that, but soon enough indeed. Also from Javi in a 6-point passing touchdown league, do you push Mahomes up to third or comfortable still fading QB? Third overall, no, that's a little high for me. I'd be fine, pushing him up in the round 2, early round 3 area, but third QB, absolutely in play. I honestly have Mahomes as my QB3 straight up anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I have him at 3 or 4, but I love Mahomes this year. So yeah, I mean, Mahomes, honestly, like you can make an argument for him as QB1 off the board in a 6-point passing touchdown league. I don't think Josh Allen's going to best him there this year, but the rushing upside for Allen and Hurts is just a little bit too much for me to make that move. But I wouldn't blame someone, if they did. But I agree with you. In a 12-team league, I think end of round 2, early round 3 is where you now get in play. The 6-point passing touchdowns really is it changes the way we think about the tier breaks for the quarterbacks. Now you suddenly get to that, oh man, I got screwed at quarterback. Well, whatever, I'll just make up for it and figure something out here. Like if you miss on Jaden Daniels at that point, like you kind of like miss like your safety parachute, you can get in trouble really quick. Where now suddenly you're just really getting outscored by quite a few points every week at quarterback. So I do agree with moving them up. And what we call that a quarterback premium league. I don't know what the official word is for it. That's what we call it in the back end scoring stuff here.
3P Wood. Why do we get Matthew Berry in the name? Because Matthew Berry owns our company and he has, made it his life's mission to make Fantasy Life pretty great. And if we, mess up or say something really dumb, Matthew's going to be the one screaming at us about it. So yeah, just our, lovely overlord, Matthew Berry.
Matthew.
Yeah.
We love Matthew. we like Matthew Berry. No, man, honestly though, like just to say, like Matthew, like people don't realize like all he does. Yeah, like we're creating, a lot of the content for this site, but like we've got investors that are investing into our company. We've got a strategy, a vision for it, and like Matthew's in play with all those things. And like, man, I was texting with Matthew yesterday. Like I read his 100 Facts article and we're texting back and forth. I was telling him, hey, love Pacheco. Not sure about your thoughts on Justin Jefferson. Matthew's a really cool dude. And I, for one, really enjoy working with him.
Yeah, I got to play a pool against Matthew last year, and I missed a shot. And he said, "Great day to suck a pool." And I was like, "Wow, okay, my bad, my bad. I will try to be better." So I went ahead and filled out my onesies here on the turn, round 5, round 6. Got Kyle Pitts and my second most drafted quarterback of the offseason, Anthony Richardson there. So. Oh, now my TV's yelling at me, so that's great. But yeah, again, went 3 wide receivers inside the first 4 rounds. Honestly, if I was on underdog, I probably would have been looking at, getting another wide receiver there. But as Dwayne said earlier, knowing your draft, knowing your draft mates, knowing where guys are usually going to be going, felt more confident pushing, getting my 4th wide receiver just a little bit longer. So, hey, got the positions filled out. I'm feeling pretty good about the squad. And thanks, Joe. Yeah, great day to be mediocre. So, Dwayne, you were on the clock. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm taking Kenneth Walker.
There you go.
Like I wrote about Walker in the tiers a few weeks back, and I know that like he's got Charbonnet there, but like man, it's just a young player still in his prime. I know that there are questions, but also the preseason vibes are really good around him. Like I've read 3 different things now, about him, where one of them was like, hey, maybe we should just feed this guy. It was like one of the quotes. And then the other one yesterday, which actually I saw from Coach Speak Index, who you had an awesome interview with this morning, talking about, it was either yesterday or the day before, but really about, getting him more involved on the passing downs and stuff like that. Those things don't always come to fruition. But any chance that we have to where it's not just, oh, for sure, Zach Charbonnet is going to have all the passing down work, that gets me more excited, honestly, about the prospects for Kenneth Walker.
And look, you can be in on Walker and still like Charbonnet. I mean, where he goes in drafts is right alongside the other, in my opinion, high-end handcuffs. So it doesn't need to be this, either or type of situation necessarily. I know personally, I haven't drafted, Walker all that much this year. And when Dwain and I kind of go through at a certain point, like, hey, who have we not been drafting that, kind of scares us, kind of alarms us that we haven't been drafting them enough. I mean, I think Walker passes that eye test for me, Dwain. I mean, it's not like we've doubted his ability to run with the football and be, a finely tuned athletic machine. And as much as the new coaching staff could lean things towards Charbonnet, who's to say they couldn't lean things even more strongly to Kenneth Walker in the first place? So I've thrown around the possibility that maybe 2024 Kenneth Walker could resemble 2022 Josh Jacobs, but then, we also got to consider Jacobs was a bit cheaper. I also still have questions about, the Seahawks offensive line and overall scoring unit of the group. So again, Walker still not someone I'm actively going on my way for, but end of round 6, man, after Kamara, Mostert, and even Joe Mixon, I think that's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, like, running backs, it's just so much about age. And I do like Zach Charbonnet, so I've drafted plenty of him as well. But I've really been trying to get my Kenneth Walker exposure up for like the last month. I do see a world where we're like, holy crap, like this guy actually is just one of the best running backs in the league, and maybe Zach Charbonnet is just kind of meh. I agree with your assessment that, like, he bounces it around, he makes the big cutbacks, but the coaching staff right now, the vibes are very positive.
I went ahead and took Jackson Smith-Njigba at the end of round 7. Someone I know Dwain is pretty confident in, potentially having a nice bounce back season. Got DJ Moore earlier. So yes, we are going in on a Bears and Seahawks week 17 stack, baby. We'll see how we can complete that. But yeah, again, I mean, this is why, at least on DraftKings, man, I don't mind, going a little bit lighter at wide receiver than normal, because with JSN and hopefully the next guy I want to draft, I do think there's kind of better options in the 7, 8, 9, areas than you're going to see on some other providers. So Zamir White off the board right after. I was peeping a guy who had a nice first down run last night, Ramondre Stevenson. We'll see if Cyber 111 doubles up. He does not. So let's see. I could go Stevenson here. I got my tight end, so I am already good. You know what, though? My heart wants what my heart wants, Dwain. Curtis Samuel, come on down. What could go wrong? Coach speaks all about Curtis, too. I will say that, man. It is one of those things where he's been hurting us a lot. But, man, if we're sitting here in week 2, Curtis Samuel fresh off 8 targets, even got 2 or 3 rush attempts, like, man, I just think he's going to be tough to keep out of that minimum, that, mid-tier wide receiver 3 conversation. And, Josh Allen's number 1 wide receiver. That is firmly in his range of outcomes this year.
Yeah, my challenge is I think if Curtis Samuel is the lead wide receiver for the Bills, and I do think he's fine where he's going, it's probably like a 21% target share. So, like, you're really hoping they turn back into the pass-heavy Bills, not the run-heavy Bills that we saw at the end of last year. Because if we get that, then, like, that's going to be 5 or 6 targets. If it's the prior version where they throw the ball all the time, or at least some weeks, then yes, that could be 7 to 8 targets. So I think the range of outcomes on Curtis Samuel is less about his talent profile. I think we pretty much know what Curtis Samuel is at this point in his career. He's a good player, not a great player. But if the offense, like, returns to that pass heavy nature, then I think that's what could make, Curtis Samuel ultimately, value. So
Dwain is on the clock, and we will hear from him in just a second. But first, a quick message for our lovely friends over at DraftKings. Obviously, drafting here right now, we love them. And yeah, guys, whether you've been watching your favorite team from the screen at home or the ballpark in the stands, there's an even better way to get on the action. Check out our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $150 back in bonus bets. All you got to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our code FantasyLife. And yeah, guess what? If sports betting is not available yet in your state, sorry, that kind of sucks. I do think sports betting is a very, very objectively fun time. But yeah, if not, you can still get on the best ball streets with Dwain and myself. And some of the DFS options are also, rather fantastic. So again, DraftKings new customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $150 back in bonus bets. All you got to do is download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our promo code FantasyLife. Remember, the crown is yours. Dwain, you are on the clock. Snagged Brian Thomas before. What are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide between some of the running backs. I need to go ahead and take one. So,
B-Rob.
Had Jalen Warren gotten to me, he would have been my pick. But he was gone. So I just pivoted to taking another wide receiver. Since we got to start 3, you could flex one. It's full PPR. It just pushes wide receivers up the board for me. So, wow. I don't, yeah. There's some wild stuff here. This guy's got Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, and Brock Purdy.
God damn it. So you get our draft thrown out. He doesn't have a wide receiver yet. Oh, he got took.
No, he's taking them in spots that's fine. Like, he's not necessarily reaching for any of those players. So the draft's
4. Oh, okay.
Doesn't matter, though. That won't get the draft thrown out.
Cool.
He's going to have to be reaching.
Hoarding QBs. My God.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's paying the rake, but he's not going to get thrown out.
And for that, we thank you. So let's see. I am about to be on the clock. Caleb Williams just went. Would have been a lot cooler if he didn't go. But you know what? I already got Anthony Richardson, so we can go ahead and push. Hold out. Try to get maybe Kirk Cousins here in a little bit. So I've got my wide receivers. This is kind of the point where it falls off. Again, also already got Kyle Pitts, so not too concerned over there in the tight end streets. Looking like some running back time. So as much as I'm assuming Chase Brown has already gone here. Yeah, he has. As much as Chase Brown's getting a lot of hype, man, maybe, just maybe, Zach Moss still not running completely dead, able to get him a good, 10, 12 picks past ADP as my RB2. Look, it's a situation where if we want to start comping this Cincy backfield to the Dolphins, from last year, I don't hate the comp, but, there were 2 RB1s in that backfield. And as much as Chase Brown might profile as a Devin Achane, maybe Zach Moss is one that's sweeping in, getting those 18 scores that, Raheem Mostert was able to get. And honestly, just, be 1B of a backfield. So Zach Moss, again, kind of flip-flopping places now with Chase Brown. I prefer Chase Brown, but when the price is right, the price is right. And we now have our RB2. So Pat Freiermuth also off the board. Was hoping that he could fall, to the 11th round and be my next tight end. Was that ever a realistic thought? Probably not. And it definitely didn't work out that way. So it is what it is there. But yeah, Matthew Stafford, Dwayne, going at the end of round 9. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, man. So like when the quarterbacks get pushed up like this, you see some of the values that are coming back to you. The other thing that's happening is a lot of people are getting their stacks blown up. So it makes me really glad that I have mine that already took Burrow and just got it over with. Because we've actually seen this happen now multiple times over here on DraftKings. So you just don't know, when you're going to get the situation. Like, see, you just got Jonathan Brooks falling. How many picks past ADP? I considered Jonathan Brooks when I took Robinson, honestly. So, I mean, that was a true choice. I had to make.
Good to get Brooks there. I mean, Jaden Daniels ended up falling a good 12, 13 picks past ADP as well, which was surprising. But yeah, and I would just say this, guys. I mean, it's not that you need to be this, slave to ADP and you can't ever take a guy a few spots ahead of ADP. We're not saying that, but Team 9, I mean, they took Puka and Cooper Kupp. Who else is going out of their way for Matthew Stafford in this draft? Could Team 4 be an extra big dickhead? Sure, it could happen. But if there was ever a time where you can wait on your quarterback, not super far past ADP, but around ADP, maybe a few picks past, it's when you've already gotten the key entities of any given passing game. If you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, guess what? No one should be going out of their way for Joe Burrow. So at a minimum, you don't need to take a guy 50 picks ahead of ADP like, that team did with Matthew Stafford. So Dwayne, you're about to be back on the clock. We'll see if Team 4 takes their 5th quarter.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers just went in round 10. So I mean, everyone's coming. If this team takes another quarterback, he did.
Oh my God, I wanted Kirk. What the hell, man?
Yeah, I don't understand this. What? I mean, I don't get it.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there could come a point where this draft gets kicked out. If he keeps doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go for Geno now, but Geno, I don't know if Geno's gonna make.
You don't even care. You got Anthony Richardson. It's whatever.
Get whoever.
Yeah, I mean you.
I mean, it would have been nice to get Rodgers or Kirk later. I didn't think I was at risk of losing him in round 10, but, that's life in the big city sometimes. So I'd like to think after all this madness that Geno can fall to me a little bit late. But if not, you know what? Maybe this is a Drake May team or Justin Fields. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. So you went ahead and took
it might
Trey
just be
Benson.
a one QB team.
Yeah, seriously. Screw it.
I've never built one of those, but I guess there's a time for everything.
Dwayne, you took Trey Benson, who at a minimum is in an elite handcuff, even if he doesn't carve out some, standalone value. But Devin Singletary, man, as much as everyone wants to talk Tyron Tracy, Eric Gray, Singletary's the undisputed RB1 with the Giants, and I understand that role isn't the sexiest, but you know what? When you're getting them at like a mid-tier, low-end RB3 price, man, works for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that got to rest last night. So, I mean, they obviously look at him as their number one. I thought that Tracy looked good last night. You know, I went back and watched all of his carries. I thought he definitely looked good. I think Tracy's still a really good late-round pick.
Per PFF, 4 missed tackles forced in those 5 rush attempts for Tracy. So didn't have the boom plays Eric Gray had. It was a good performance from Eric Gray. But remember, everyone, we are far more concerned with the first team snap usage than, again, just a good play or two here or there. And in last night's case, we did see Tracy play, I believe, 11 of the 13 snaps that Drew Lock and the, de facto starters were out there. Obviously, Daniel Jones is QB1, but when they did have yesterday's starters out there, that did include Tyron Tracy far more than Eric Gray. So little wide receiver run here. And these are about the guys you see in this range: Judy, Shaheed, Brandon Cooks. And that's a big reason why I prefer to have mine, already kind of secured by the time we get to this point in the draft. So let's see. Ford, Zeke, Corum, tight ends. Not loving any of them. I'm going and taking, my opinion, still a very good handcuff in Blake Corum, one of my more drafted running backs of the offseason. Now got a 1-4-5-1 start. Maybe we go another running back. Only one way to find out, Dwain, as we get there. But how are you feeling about your start, Dwain? You took first running back Kenneth Walker in round 6, able to get a pretty freaking strong wide receiver core: Tyreek, London, Neighbors, Higgins. Got your onesies in McBride and Burrow, obviously stacking up with Higgins. And then Brian Thomas Jr., Brian Robinson, Trey Benson, and Devin Singletary. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I mean, I feel great about it. There's really not anything that can happen now to where I would be like, oh my God, my team's terrible. I mean, the only major risk is like if you're just really screwed at QB2, but with how many quarterbacks, team 4 has taken, like I just kind of accept that might be a reality, in this draft. And that's okay. Because you just want to be careful, man. Like you don't want to start, you want to take the value that's creating, on the draft board. So just trying to stay true to that. We'll figure it out, as we go on the QB2 stuff.
I went ahead and took Rico Dowdle at the second pick of the 12th round. A lot of the beat reporters, man, are starting to say that Rico should be considered the favorite to lead the team in rushing. So Zeke was still on the board. You can kind of say, who do you prefer between the two guys? But, one of these guys is going to end up being, as soon as we kind of decipher who the leader is, the leader of the Cowboys backfield. Now, I admit it could be someone like Miles Sanders, or, we had a rumor that Dalvin Cook and the Cowboys have freaking been talking, which would be ridiculous given how bad, Cook looked last season. But yeah, man, Dowdle or Zeke, whoever we see go out there in week 1 and actually leading the way, man, they're going to be in that RB2 conversation sooner rather than later. So similar to that Miami backfield from last year, when we do have these uncertain, ambiguous situations, I do think buying into it can make a lot of sense, because not saying we know exactly how it's going to work out, but hey, that's why they're as cheap as they are. So not the worst, situation to be throwing some darts at. But Dwain, I hope you weren't planning on getting Juwan Jennings there. Just got sniped right before you. Ezekiel Elliott now off the board. I'm assuming for the same reasons I kind of just outlined with Rico.
Yeah, I'm just glad to see you finally come along on Dowdle. Like you were pretty against it early. Like you were pretty sure that it was Zeke, but I think we don't really know, to your point. And Dowdle's the younger player. So, I mean, I've been drafting a boatload of Dowdle like over the last 2 weeks. Just like you just look in that range where he's going, you're like, none of these other guys really have any chance of like day one being the starter in an offense like the Cowboys. Yeah. Like Dowdle's it. So even if you're wrong on it, it's okay. It's the right bet to make. And Zeke's the same bet, but he's not, he's not as young. So there's a chance like Dowdle still has this efficiency and other things that really help him out. With Zeke, we kind of know what we get. But I will say this. Coaches trust Zeke on all the downs. So I won't be surprised at all if Zeke gets 60% of the work in week 1 and Dowdle's the change of pace. I think it really can go, honestly, either way.
We have one team with 5 quarterbacks, another team with 4 quarterbacks. Anytime you want to use a 3rd-round pick on Patrick Mahomes, you definitely need to get Goff, Rodgers, and Herbert also involved, particularly when, 2 of them you don't even have stacking partners for. So interesting stuff going on in the middle of this draft, Dwayne. We'll just say that. But you managed to get a nice little pick there. Mike Williams off the PUP list. And, someone that, again, if we look up in week 1, week 2, and it's like, all right, yeah, he's playing his usual allotment of snaps. I mean, would it be the most shocking thing for Aaron Rodgers to enable more than one overly fantasy-friendly pass catcher? I don't think it would.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Williams, we know what he is. Like he's not going to be someone that's going to get a 30% target share. We know that. He did have that one season where the Chargers kind of used him more in that Michael Thomas kind of role, and that was really nice. For the most part, he's been a deep A-dot guy for his career. But I mean, he has a lot of big plays. Like honestly, when you run route depths as deep as Mike Williams does, and you get a 19 to 21% target share, it's in a way it's kind of impressive because a lot of guys that are running those kind of routes get like a 12% target share. So like I was thinking about that the other day because I was thinking about the way I always describe him when we talk about him, and I mostly am just trying to trigger Ian. But to be running the route depths he does and still get the targets that he gets is actually pretty respectable. But my point being, we know he's not going to be a 25% target share guy. Like we know Garrett Wilson's going to lead the way. But hey, if he's 18 to 20% and Aaron Rodgers is right and the Jets offense is clicking, you have upside. I don't want to say he's got 10, 12 touchdown upside because he's coming off the ACL. He's age 30. But I mean, would it surprise us if he scored 7 or 8, and had like 900 receiving yards? You're definitely going to get some usable spike weeks in best ball where you're not having to pick which week you want to use Mike Williams.
I went ahead and got my second quarterback, Geno Smith, right around ADP. So good to see me not get completely screwed by the quarterback run. Coming back around, I probably would have taken Ty Chandler if he would have gone there right now. So good pick by, Cyber holding it out down in the 12 hole. But man,
I really like your draft.
Gone? Thank you.
You got Corum at a value. I love Dowdle. You got Jonathan Brooks at a value. You got Zach Moss at a value. To win these things, typically you need to be in the top 10th percentile of value, of ADP value. Now it's closing line value. We don't know what that's going to be yet. Closing line value means like when the tournament closes, how much ADP value did you get versus, when you drafted these guys. But the next closest thing you can look at is real-time ADP value. So Michael Leone over at Establish the Run's done a lot of really great work. If you guys haven't read his stuff, I highly recommend you go read his stuff. He talks about all the potential edges that we should be thinking about in best ball. So yeah, when I look at what you've done with your team, like, man, you've got massive values all over the place. You don't have any holes in your roster. You're really strong at wide receiver and a full PPR, 3 wide receiver. Like your onesies are strong with Pitts and Richardson. Like, dude,
baby.
You have a really good team. I love this. This is the best team I've seen you draft with me, in the ones that we've been together.
You should see me on that treadmill, though, Dwayne. That's when the real magic comes out. I gotta get that in the office. But
I will say, I'm with you. When I'm exercising, not like full on exercising, but like some kind of cardio and drafting. Dude, I am dialed in.
I know, man. It takes your mind off the exercise, man. It really is the perfect combo. So let the record show. If you guys look at it happens on a lot of these sites, but for some reason, like I think if your computer clock is slightly off, like the on the clock starts like at 33 seconds, even though it's 30. So I was actually about to click someone that didn't go yet, so hopefully I can get both, but had TJ Hawkinson at the top of the queue. I don't even hate it, man. I got him after the top 150 picks. He had like a pick 130 or so ADP. So, just hopefully it gets going in the second. I think where he goes now in drafts is fine. It was more so earlier in the offseason when he was going closer to pick 100, pick 110 that the primary problem was. But Hawkinson after guys like Cole Kmet and Luke Musgrave, honestly, I'm fine with taking Hawkinson after Pat Freiermuth. So just getting him that much later. Perfectly fine at tight end too for your boy. But Dwayne, you went ahead and got Daniel Jones in. I will say, Daniel Jones, he's only 1 year removed from a QB8 finish. And as much as I am concerned about not even the ACL as much, but that ongoing neck issue, man, if he plays 17 games this year, he's got Malik Neighbors, best wide receiver he's ever gotten to play with. I mean, not too many quarterbacks have actually finished as a QB1 the last 2 years. And we got Geno Smith and Daniel Jones are 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, look, I'm not crazy about it, but I have Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
So the quarterbacks are all gone. Right. I wouldn't normally take Daniel Jones this early, but there does come a point, right, where you're like, okay, I just need to go ahead and do this. Because if I didn't do it there, I wasn't getting one. And I really don't want to have a build where I don't have a second quarterback. So you have to adapt, but I like the way that, honestly, both of us handled it. We didn't force it early. We just waited to let it happen. So, and in my queue, I just so if folks are wondering, like Daniel Jones, I had at the top because I have Malik Neighbors, but then as my backup plans, I had Bryce Young, I had Derek Carr, because my plan coming back was going Bucky Irving. So if I were to get Bryce Young, then that sets up the potential week 17 against Bucky Irving, even though I don't have, Sorry, I would have gone Leggett, but if Leggett was gone, I was going Bucky Irving. So I felt like Bryce Young was going to give me options one way or another to either get a receiver from his team or to get the opposing running back in week 17.
I know it hasn't gotten a ton of hype, but Bucky does seem pretty well set actually as the there's Demarcus Robinson. That's who I actually wanted last round, so it worked out for your boy anyway. But yeah, I think this Pewter report, one of the Buccaneers beat reporters, basically saying like Bucky Irving's role is going to be bigger than people expect. Okay, that's yada yada yada. Beat reporter, general offseason talk. But he was saying Bucky is like pretty clearly the RB2 right now, and it's Sean Tucker and Chase Edmonds competing more for that RB3 role. So I think it might be a little bit like Arizona, where maybe Amari DiMercato is technically the next guy in. He and Chase Edmonds kind of play that similar pass down back, even though it, only amounts like the 10, 12 carries per, or not carries, 10, 12 snaps per game. But Bucky and then obviously Trey Benson, Dwain, two of the, handcuff options right now that I think would be the preferred targets, should the starter go down. So Kamani Vidal, now please don't take Noah Fant. He did not. Let's go. I probably didn't even need that because I took Hawkinson, but we got Geno, and now we're done at tight end. So that's the allure of fantasy football, Dwayne. Even when I mess up, I can just spin it in my favor. So big time tight end run now going. Who are you messing around with at tight end? Trey McBride. So yeah, you just need one more late and then not really need to worry about it. So Theo Johnson could be a target for you, although he was splitting things with Bellinger and even Chris Manhertz a little bit. But I'll tell you what, man, for any rookie tight end to even be out there splitting first team reps, period, in the preseason is a pretty good sign.
Yeah. He is my target. So we'll see if he goes now that you mentioned it. So
I'll shut the hell up. And then the
Hartitz going to cost me 1.5 mil.
The other there goes Tyron Tracy, mentioned before, kind of him versus Eric Gray and Tracy having the better snaps. So now you can get Theo if you want to join.
Nah.
Probably a bit early. Xavier, Leggett all the way down here, man.
Nah. Let's just take Leggett. Come on.
X-rays negative, MRI negative.
Yeah.
He's still going to drop 3 rounds for no reason.
I mean, you got to drop him a little because he is a rookie, and we know how that can be for these rookies. Like they get the slow start, so it's like I understand that element. But yeah, I'm just like I'm not overthinking that.
Team 1, kind of interesting strategy, 3 QBs, but Bryce Young, Bo Nix, and JJ McCarthy going late. So I've drafted, Dwayne, I remember earlier in the offseason, we both had a ton of Bryce Young. Haven't exactly, shied away from him, I would say, but certainly, don't prefer taking him first. Guys, Dwayne and I were in the flex drafts in New York, which is a great event that the Athletics' Jake Seeley puts on. And, Dwayne was in the super flex draft and nice little run of QBs, and Dwayne ends up having to take Baker Mayfield. And Dwayne, I believe your exact words were like, you never even dream of, saying like, I'm going to draft Baker Mayfield, but that's what happens sometimes, man.
Yeah, I had Mike Evans. That's what got Baker on the team. I mean, honestly, he needs to thank Mike Evans that he's on the squad. So like, he definitely needs to send him a Christmas card or something this year.
Thank him for that contract too, honestly, for calling a spade here now.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'll lean into stacks. Like Aaron Rodgers was still on the board at that time, who I slightly prefer to Baker. But like when I had Mike Evans already on my team, I didn't have any Jets. I was like, let's just lean into Mike having this big year. And that means that Baker comes along for the ride. So like, let's just do it. Hey, I do have to ask you, for Dortch, like, I know he's getting all this praise, and he's actually been a really good player for the last 3 years when he's on the field. Like he runs targets, he does everything you want to do. My concern with like Dortch, I think he's fine in best ball, obviously later like this. And if you're building out your week 17 stacks, all those sort of things. But my question to you, like, is like, how much do we think he's really going to play? Like Drew Petzing, like he likes to run the heavy personnel stuff. I don't think we're going to get that much 11 personnel. Like I think we might get like 60%, like 63% max. Now, maybe Dortch is so good he forces them to play more 11, but I think you're going to see, Michael Wilson play on the outside. Obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. is playing on the other side. So I just like, I agree Dortch is a really good player. My challenge is like, how does he get on the field? And even if Michael Wilson gets hurt, Dortch is not in a good enough blocker to play like in probably their base personnel. So that probably then turns into, Jones. Right. So like, I don't know. I struggle.
Ballers ball, Dwayne. That's all I'm going to say to your list of very good points on why Greg Dortch probably isn't the best late round target in redraft leagues in particular. Look, honestly, like I think this even more and more as I finally get in some actual redrafts, like Hero RB really is setting up as the strategy of the year, I believe, because again, once you get down to like who's the last wide receiver drafted, Dwayne, that we think we could actually go in the week one and be like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good about putting this guy in my flex. Like we have to go back to probably round 11.
Yeah. It gets pretty
like
gross pretty
Shaheed
quick.
Cooks. Like that's what I'm saying. I'm not, and look, it's best ball. It's a completely different format, but it's still like the positional order isn't that different in terms of redraft versus best ball rank.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the spot of the draft. I mean, if you get through round 10, 11, guys, it's fine using 6 of your last 7 picks on running backs. Those are the sort of handcuffs that, guess what? If there is a puka that emerges, yeah, okay, you're cutting these running backs and you're going to go try to find the guy. But man, just more and more, man, as again, the redraft, it's like, let me get 5, 6 wide receivers inside the first 10 or so rounds and more or less ignore the position from there, man, because I'm with you. Like, if we need Marv and probably Michael Wilson to go down to feel great about, like, what happened last year, man? I love Dortch. He didn't do anything, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's probably fine later in best, but like this, honestly, I feel like round 17. I mean, I don't know. It's probably fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, I'm gonna draft Kendre Miller. This is just ridiculous.
Kendre Miller.
I mean, guys, he's got a hurt hamstring. Like, I mean, is he dead?
Allegedly still alive.
Did his hamstring? Did actually his leg blow off? And we didn't get accurate information as to what happened here. I thought about taking him with my last 2 picks, and I was like, nope. People are so out on Kendre now. I bet he falls back to me. And well, he did.
Trey Sermon going in round 18. He does profile as JT's number 2. I will say that was the case down the stretch last season because I believe Zach Moss was banged up a little bit. And like what we did see was while Sermon was the backup lead early down back, like they still wanted to keep Tyler Goodson involved. They also just re-signed Deion Jackson. So Trey Sermon is one of those RB2s where, yeah, he is the next man up, but not every handcuff running back is created equal. I don't think Sermon is someone where if JT goes down, we're all of a sudden treating him as this, locked in top, definitely not a top 12 option. He might honestly just still be just barely on the outside of the top 24 if we really had to go through it. So there's your boy, Theo Johnson, Dwayne. You got your guy.
Yeah, I mean, he has the same buy as McBride, so I didn't really love that, but I was looking at the rest of the names. I was like, I'll just go with him. I kind of wish earlier when I went Marvin Mims, which is fine. I think Mims is a starting receiver right now for the Broncos based on everything we're hearing, but it could just turn into like a gross rotation outside of Cortland Sutton. Like that won't surprise me. I really was trying to play the Q of Estime being so low on DraftKings Q. Like he goes much earlier, like on other sites. So I was trying to play the game of getting Mims and Estime on the same team as my week 17 bring back, right, to Burrow and T. Higgins on this team. So that didn't quite work out, but it's fine. Kendre Miller, like in round 18 is okay.
Also, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to go. First of all, I'm sorry for drafting Alexander Madison. That is gross. And also, as Jay Buck noted, Deion Jackson on the Jets. I read it wrong. That's on me. No excuses. We'll watch the film and get better. So I thought I read the Colts sign someone. Guess they didn't, Dwayne. That's life in the big city. So
there's another Deontay Johnson, and he plays linebacker, and his name's spelled different.
Really?
I noticed that in the box scores last night. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Need the player IDs to help out with that. Elijah Moore off the board, and I'm about to be up again. Jamal Williams is someone, again, when you get to these 20 rounds, I have also taken a few times. Again, not one that you're going to tweet about, obviously, not trying to face that ridicule, but you know what? Could be worse. So now I'm going to I need one more wide receiver. I think it's Darius Slayton, guys. What injury is he dealing with? Do you know anything about his injury, Dwayne?
I don't.
All right. Well, we're just going to risk it. I was going to say because
he just says he's tight.
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Tight.
It doesn't say, it just says Coach Brian Daboll said Friday that Slayton is tight and he won't be a full participant. But he did not say,
a compliment, like pretty tight player. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't know. Maybe he's a tight poker player. They played poker the night before, and Slayton wouldn't play unless he had pocket aces or kings. I really don't know what Brian Daboll's referencing.
I just typed in Darius Slayton to Google News, and the first result is Darius Slayton wants to contribute to Giants offense. Oh yeah, great. I hope so. Wide receiver in the NFL wants to contribute to his NFL.
What a headline.
What a headline. Shout out Sports Illustrated, just still crushing the media game. So I was going to say, though, it did seem, I mean, again, we'll see what the injury is, but Slayton and Wandale were not playing last night. So presumably those are the next two guys up. And honestly, looking at, again, this Giants offense, Malik Neighbors played 11 of his 12 snaps out wide. So Wandale should be the starting slot. And then, again, if Slayton was resting and not dealing with an injury, that would assume that he is ahead of Jalen Hyatt, who honestly I do think probably fits in a little better as that, not quite as often used kind of number 4 wide receiver. So loving the 5 spot. Yeah, look, the 5 spot looks good, man, down here. Like you're seeing the picks, but then you scroll up a little bit and you see that they took 4 quarterbacks inside the top 12 picks. So I'm with you. I mean, Roshan Johnson, Damian Pierce, where they went, really good picks. Javon Baker, despite this stupid, early Patriots depth chart is fine as well. Even Quentin Johnston, end of round 16, I have seen worse over there. So Dwain making your final pick, and it is Jalen Hyatt. So just a couple guys hanging out, talking some ball, drafting Giants wide receivers. What can go wrong? You actually,
it's like I feel like there's just a really super high ceiling with this passing game. Just kidding, guys. Before I get people emailing Matthew telling them I should be fired, him that I should be fired. I considered taking a third tight end just for the bye week thing. And the more I sat here and thought about it, I'm like, okay, looking at the tight ends that are on the board versus like Jalen Hyatt, like who could theoretically take a step forward, and he's perfect for best ball. Like Jalen Hyatt, like if he does end up being a starter for the Giants, it's like, oh, he had 3 targets, but he had 2 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Like that's the kind of stat line he's probably going to put up if he ends up getting on the field. So that works out in best ball. And honestly, with a pick in the last round, if you just get 1 or 2 weeks like that out of the player, you're actually doing okay. Like we would love for them to be more than that, but you're okay if that's what they give you.
By the way, I think I misunderstood D. Pavey saying loving the 5 spot as a draft position, not this particular 5 spot. Yes, I agree with you because you're pretty much, assuming CD and Tyreek go, that sets you up to get one of the big 3 RBs if you want, and then you can do hero RB and again, just go from there. So I am with you for sure, Pavey. But that wraps up the draft, guys. We'll quickly go through our squads. Again, I was picking out of the 11 spot, went Garrett Wilson and Marv to start, got my hero RB in Isaiah Pacheco, DJ Moore, JSN, and Curtis Samuel rolling out the top 5 wide receivers inside the first 8 rounds. Also got, some elite onesies and Kyle Pitts and Anthony Richardson. So accordingly spent the better part of the second half of the draft, filling out the running back room. Zach Moss, Jonathan Brooks, Blake Corum, and Rico Dowdle. Nice mix of some standalone goodness potentially with Moss and Brooks and some sky-high handcuff upside with Corum and Dowdle, who honestly, weird things could have happened. Maybe they can carve out some value for their own. Managed to get Geno Smith, again, stacked him with JSN, had the Bears bring back as well. TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant to round out the tight end room, got the stack in Seattle and just, really got Hawkinson free falling in ADP. DeMarcus Robinson and one of the cheapest 3rd round wide receivers, if not the cheapest, with where Jalen McMillan is recently going in fantasy right now. So LMC, technically related to Christian McCaffrey. How about that? Braylon Allen in round 18, I believe, is a pretty great bargain. And then Madison and Slayton, I would probably cut them out if I had to post this on Twitter. So as Dwayne and I like to do, is there a pick that we, could go back in time and change in hindsight? And, man, I'm feeling pretty good about things. Honestly,
I don't think you have one, to be honest. If you do, it's Curtis Samuel. I hate to tell you.
Yeah.
For Ramondre or one of the running backs.
That is, I probably would have been just fine, because again, Marv, Garrett, DJ Moore, that's good enough that I probably.
But you ended up fine because you got value on Moss, value on Brooks, value on Corum, and then you tacked on Dowdle right at ADP. So you ended up fine. You did what you had to after. So I don't really think it ended up hurting you. Where the way it hurts you is if people don't let those running backs fall to you, right?
Yeah.
And you're having to reach a little further down the board. But the way that this board fell, I think is fine.
Only other thing I would say is, given that I did draft Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe I could have made the move for Kyler over Anthony Richardson, but, semantics. And I do have Richardson ranked higher. So as much as stacking is preferred, not sure at that point, it was necessarily going to be worth, completely going against the old ranks. So, yeah, man, very, very pleased with the draft. Dwain, you were picking out of the 3-hole again, went with a more 0 RB strategy, loaded a wide receiver room. Gotta love that. Tyreek, London, Neighbors, and Higgins. Also got some pretty good onesies in Trey McBride and Burrow to go ahead and pair with Higgins. Then you went heavy on running backs, Kenneth Walker, B-Rob, Trey Benson, Devin Singletary, and Ezekiel Elliott. Also got in Brian Thomas Jr. and Mike Williams. Pretty damn good, mid to late round wide receivers, if I do say so myself. And then, just really wanted to get some pieces of this Giants team. I know you had Neighbors, so it makes sense. But Daniel Jones, Theo, and then Jalen Hyatt at the end, threw in Liga in Marvin Mims, man. I will say, when I've been drafting a lot recently, Mims stands out. I was saying before, Dwayne, who could we feel good about at wide receiver, actively starting, in this entire screen? Out of all of them, man, I wouldn't Marvin Mims could easily run a 90% route rate in week 1,
Yep.
but Bo Nix doesn't suck. And he's just the number 2 pass game option in Denver. So is that worth the most? No, but in round 17, man, I'll take that.
Yeah, and it's a week 17 thing. I've got Burrow and Higgins, so I end up now with Mims, as the bring back on that. You already mentioned the build. Two quarterbacks, 7 running backs, 9 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. I honestly thought I would be an 8 running back build and an 8 wide receiver build. Just the way the value fell, it just made it slightly different. If I were to change one thing about my draft, I don't think there is one, to be honest. I'm sure there's something here, but I never had that gut punch feeling. We're oh man, that just happened. Are you kidding me? That never happened to me. So I feel pretty good. I felt like I did what I had to do at every spot. The Brian Thomas Jr. pick I thought could get me, because I basically had Najee, I had Brian Robinson, and then I had Pollard, in the queue.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, the guys behind me could have taken all of them.
Yeah.
That might have made me feel a little bit different, but I still ended up getting Brian Robinson Jr. to come back to me. I had my backup plan was actually the guy that you got in round 10, which was Brooks. So for Carolina. So yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I've got some week 17 stuff going on, got some ADP value, mostly on players that are injured, like Liget, Kendre Miller. You don't want to be deep, leaning way into injuries in the early rounds, but on these later round guys that are getting pushed 4 or 5 rounds past their ADP, I don't mind it. I think you still want to be mindful, as far as how many of them that you put on your team, but a couple, I don't mind having a couple. So yeah, I feel pretty good. Didn't want to take Daniel Jones as early as I did, but felt like I had to with how many quarterbacks went to the team for.
And Brian Thomas Jr., where he went here was certainly affordable. But yeah, that'd be the only thing I would maybe, critique Dwayne. But we ended up doing kind of, same exact thing. We both took a wide receiver in round 8 and then took 4 more running backs. So again, as much as I wonder, if you take Najee instead of Brian Thomas Jr. and then you tack on, say.
See, I don't feel different. I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr. and Brian Robinson versus Najee and having to come back and take Khalil Shakir. I would rather have Brian Thomas Jr., the first round pick out of LSU, because I think Brian Robinson Jr. and Najee Harris are the same thing. They're the exact same thing. I mean, they're going to be mostly the early down work. They've got passing down backs on their team, but Najee has a bigger risk of losing his job because Jalen's in his prime. When you look at Brian Robinson Jr., Eckler, I would never doubt. The dude's a workout warrior, so he could also steal this job completely away from Brian Robinson. I think he actually has more upside than Robinson, if everything broke his way. But based on what we know, if everybody's healthy, we know Brian Robinson's probably getting 50 to 60% of the rushing attempts, which is what you're hoping for from Najee. So I feel like Brian Thomas Jr. is the thing I didn't want to miss out on. Addison would have been my backup, if for some reason I were to go Najee first. So I felt okay about it.
And again, that's the only spot that maybe you could say, all right, well, maybe you just should have taken 2 running backs there. But then again, being able to get Devin Singletary in the early parts of round 11 after Nick Chubb, Zeke falling as much as he did to the latter parts of round 12, maybe not as extreme as, the Jonathan Brooks value I got, but really good, ADP RB value. Hopefully, I'll see you in the championship, my friend. So fun draft, everyone. Final note from Dave, why is Ray McLeod not getting drafted? great point. I did take him in round 18 of a draft I was doing yesterday. So yeah, really no reason. Certainly does look like the front runner for that slot wide receiver job. Was already starting before the Rondale Moore injury happened. So certainly annoyed at the handful of Rondale Moore week 18 teams we have. But you know what, Dwayne? It was less than I drafted Tim Patrick the last 2 off seasons. So injury gods work in mysterious ways. But Dwayne, I know you have your quarterback strategy article just published on Fantasy Life. I was reading it before the stream. Good work, my friend. Let the folks know kind of what you got going on.
Yeah, so the quarterback strategy dropped today. I'll be putting out the other positions over the next few weeks. And then we also have the utilization report, which will come out next Monday. So I already started working on that this morning, looking at all the games from yesterday, getting that written up. So yeah, we'll have all the takeaways from preseason usage. Sorry, I said that wrong. Utilization. It's spelled utilization, not usage. Come on, man. So yeah, looking forward to it. How about you, Hartitz? What do you got going on?
I am going to my favorite coffee shop right after this because on the weekend they have these cinnamon rolls that are literally the best things I've ever had, and they only sell them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So nice little end of week surprise. And yeah, shout out Coastline Coffee in Powell, Ohio, if any of you guys happen to be close to that. But now I had a bigger article go live today on all the position battles to keep an eye out for on the preseason, and also discuss a lot of them with, again, Coach Speak Index on the Fantasy Life show on Friday. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that. And yeah, next week, I know Dwayne was already kind of talking about some of the different stages of the draft, but we're Monday through Friday right now, 9 a.m. Eastern every single day. And next week is really going to be where we hone in on a lot of the strategic elements that we got going on. So what to do if you got an early, middle, late round pick, 10 commandments of drafting, and to Dwayne's point, some preseason utilization takeaways. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for all that. And otherwise, just have a freaking great weekend. Football's in the air. Still got some summer, good weather, good vibes. Talk about a great day to be great. So for Dwayne, for producer Matt, for the other producer Matt, that's right, Matt times 2. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Fantasy Life Show. Until next time, take care, everybody.